All right, so next we're going to have the RISE panel. If the RISE panelists will come forward. And as we transition, I want to thank everybody for using the microphones when you ask your questions. We really appreciate that so that everybody that's also listening in the live stream can participate in real time with us. We try to repeat back elements of what's stated without a microphone, but we oftentimes lose that because of the volume of what's expressed and the importance of the details that are expressed. So we are grateful for this next panel. We call it the RISE panel. They are from Tarrant County. RISE stands for Reaching Independence Through Self-Empowerment. This post-adjudication specialty court program is designed to identify women with a history of significant sexual trauma that has contributed to their involvement in the criminal justice system. Judges, please note that this session is certified as 1 hour of judicial education credit for family violence through the Texas Center for the Judiciary. So first, I want to introduce you to Judge Sheila Wynn, who currently serves as a full-time magistrate judge for Tarrant County. As part of her duties, she presides over the RISE program, Reaching Independence Through Self-Empowerment. Prior to this position, she was an assistant district attorney for Tarrant County for nearly 20 years. During that time, she worked in the Family Violence Unit, Juvenile Division, and the Gang Unit. She was the chief prosecutor in 5 different district courts, as well as the deputy chief of the Misdemeanor Division. She has been board certified in criminal law since 2002. And next, Tre'Naisha McGuire is the program manager for the RISE program. She has worked for the Tarrant County Tarrant County Community Supervision and Corrections Department for nearly 5 years. Prior to her current position, Ms. McGuire supervised defendants on probation for many different types of offenses, such as felony DWIs, domestic assaults, drug possessions, and burglary of a habitation. Ms. McGuire worked for 2 district courts and 2 county criminal courts in Tarrant County as a backup court officer before being promoted to an assistant unit supervisor position in the mental health unit. Help me welcome Judge Wynn and Ms. McGuire.
Thank you very much. It's an honor for us to be here today. And just want to acknowledge everybody that's out there in virtual land, as well as all of the people in this room. I had no idea there would be this many participants. So I hope what we have to say is helpful. Tre'Naisha and I are both part of the team that manages the RISE program, Reaching Independence Through Self-Empowerment. And this was a specialty court. It's not a diversion court, though. This is a treatment court for women who have been sexually traumatized by prostitution, sexual assault, or trafficking. And so our participants are typically people who have long felony records, many convictions, many arrests, and many needs. So you can imagine that people that get involved in that have a lot of complex issues, such as, addiction, mental health issues, and obviously trauma. And so what we try to do in the RISE program is identify those people who are most often come to us because they are in jail, and try to identify people who are willing to make a change, who are willing to work hard, work with us, and try to help them unravel everything that has happened to them. And so it's a long process. We typically only will work with folks who have felony cases because this takes years. Our program, as I said, is not a diversion program. It's not a 6 months and keep you out of the system. These women have been in the system multiple times before. And what we're trying to do now is give them a different experience and give them a way to get out of the system and stay out. And so I just want to make that clear from the beginning. We are not a diversion, but we are a program for people who have been involved in the system over and over again. And so hopefully by going through the RISE program and participating in all of these services, they can recover from their addictions, address their trauma, and heal from the life and the experiences that they've already had. So that's our goal. So as I mentioned, Tre'Naisha and I are just part of a team. It really does take a village to operate this program. And so we have judges involved. Obviously, the probation department is a huge part of the supervision because all of our participants in this program are on probation. So we have Tre'Naisha, who is the program manager, as well as a case manager who's not here with us today. But so two folks from the probation department that deal with our participants every day. And so then we also have community partners that are just such a huge part of our program that I think helps us have the success that we do. And so you can see them listed up there. We've got Tarrant County MHMR, and I know there's some folks here from Tarrant County MHMR, from the NET, from the Women's Center, the Salvation Army, and the Union Gospel Mission. And so all of these people and agencies come together, and they are part of our treatment team. You know, you can see from the slide that the folks there are sitting at the table, and when we have our treatment meetings, which are twice a month prior to docket, a representative from each one of those agencies is present. And each one of them has a voice, and each one of them has a perspective to help us help our participants. And so you can see here, you already heard from Judge Carr this morning, but I couldn't resist using a picture of him because without Judge Carr, we would not have this program. And so, you heard from him, and, this was his vision 10 or 12 years ago. And because of Judge Carr and because of his vision and the connections that he had in the community, he was able to put this program together. And I think that is what makes this unique, is that we have not only court people, but these outside agencies that really help us deal with the things that courts are not so good at dealing with. And I'll say this, and of course it's recorded, so I may regret it, but having been in the criminal justice system for nearly 20 years before I became involved in this program, I would say there's a lot of things the courts can't do that we're not really very good at. And so I think, Judge Carr's vision to know that there were agencies out there to give us the support and to give our participants the support that they need is the thing that makes us different. And so obviously we've got Judge Carr, who's our founding and supervising judge. I am the presiding judge currently. I'd also like to give a shout out to Judge Rainey Webb, who I think is watching virtually because she will step in as well when I'm unavailable. And then of course to our district court judges in Tarrant County, who have the courage to give folks who have these long felony records one more chance at probation. And to trust us that we will help these folks and keep them from reoffending and keeping them from looking bad and making those courageous decisions. So as I mentioned, we've got the probation department is obviously involved, and Tre'Naisha could probably speak more to that as far as how often she is communicating with our participants. We have, I would say, how many do you think right now? We just had a graduation.
We just had a graduation, so we have about 20 ladies left on the program.
Right, so last week we had a huge graduation. We had 9 participants graduate after being in the program anywhere from 2 to 3 years. And we try to keep our participation between 20 and 40 people. And as I mentioned before, these are people that are high risk and have high needs. And so Amanda and Tre'Naisha are constantly in communication with those folks regarding appointments and medications and counseling and living situations and jobs and medical things, and so it's a lot to keep up with. So we're lucky to have Amanda and Tre'Naisha.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do my job without the people in the community. We have MHMR on the team, and one of the things that our LMHA is able to do is they provide treatment. They do their treatment plans, they provide them with resources, the knowledge for our clients, helping them with doctor's appointment, medications, and having them on the team allow us to have insight. So when they come to us every docket, they let us know what each client have told them about, if they're missing their doctor's appointment, because we wouldn't be able to do it by ourselves. They keep us updated. They provide them with housing, employment, as well as bus passes, treatment recommendation, and each lady has a individual personalized plan. So we get those plans, and it lets us be able to figure out how do we need to approach it from not only just a probation side, but just seeing them as human beings. We also deal with the NET, and I love the NET. The NET is our nonprofit, and they're fighting human trafficking. They sit on the treatment team as well and provide our women with social support. They take them out to petting zoos, painting pumpkins, bowling alleys, just to get them back in that society and build those social skills, as well as providing them with advocates. They tell their advocates things they will not tell probation. So having her on the team allow us a little bit of insight. Now, we don't break that trust with them, but just letting us know that, someone has something going on, and this is why they maybe failed to report or failed to do community service hours. So we're able to just have that insight as well with the NET. We have a video that we want you guys to show that it was put on by the NET.
That's how I found out about the whole, we're female entertainers. That's what she used to say. He was living two different lives. Like, got my family and my kids over here, my addict over here. Nobody knows. It becomes tiresome.
I was tired. I was broke down. I mean, mentally, spiritually, physically, I was gone. I was out of there. I wanted to get clean off of heroin.
I grew up on Rosedale Street where you see nothing but prostitution. I went to jail one night, got out, and went right back the next day. That was my breaking point. And from that point on, it just made me want to be a part of my grandkids' life because I missed out on my kids' life.
My cousin, he was a lot older than me. We used to play house a lot. And then one day he took my clothes off and I went to the doctor and I had to have stitches and he went to jail. And that's hard being 8.
At the age of 13, I ran away a lot because of the situation living with my aunt and her sons. One was physically abusive and one was sexually abusive.
From Alabama, I went to St. Louis. And from St. Louis, we moved here to Texas. I lost out on scholarships and everything, so I became a little rebellious.
I had self-esteem issues and I have a group of older friends and they're trying to tell me what's best for me. And that's really how I started. I started running away from home. I never knew that she was into prostitution. The majority of the time, it's the girls that do the recruiting. When you're recruited, it's a whole process. Gather your new identity. Immediately you become family. Now you're feeling comfortable because they're welcoming you into their home. Most girls get into soliciting their bodies for dudes is because he said, I love you, I'm gonna take care of you. It's like a sense of comfort because this is something that they're not receiving when they're at home. Then when you're finally in it, you don't wanna be in it. And sometimes when you're already in, you can't get out.
I believe that every last one of us was looking for love in the wrong places.
There are so many tricks and trades in the game. You start off getting high, thinking that it's gonna be fun. Everything is adventurous. It's not fun in the end. It's ugly. I can paint a real ugly picture. I'm never gonna try and paint a pretty picture of prostitution.
It's a vicious cycle. Like I don't wanna live like this no more. And nobody wanted to help. I know I can do better than this. Well, when I met the Net girls, I just felt like family. I felt accepted. I didn't feel like I had to overwork myself to be accepted. Every time they come with open arms. They come understanding.
When I first went to jail, I heard about the program through my lawyer. I told her that I was tired and I needed a break and I wanted something different in my life. The Net played the major part in my life because they, one, taught me social skills, how to become a friend and how to accept friends.
I'm a part of the RISE program. I'm thankful for everything about it because they've opened up some doors for us. And Dana, she's walking, talking encouragement. I love Dana. I love her as a person.
My advocate, Mel Flo, she's lovable. I just love her to death. We spend a lot of time together. We eat, we share photos, we talk. I'm so excited for her to get married. I can't wait to attend the wedding.
I've been clean 19 months. I'm more responsible. I have a relationship with my kids, my family. I don't have to live a secret life. This is not something that's happening willingly. Like, girls have goals, dreams, aspirations, and they want to fulfill them, and people have come in and like just stole their dream. They went to sleep, they woke up, and it was gone. And it's not something that they can't have back, but the community itself has to be willing to help.
I'm 5 years clean. I have my own place. I'm a net survivor leader, and I attend their leadership class. I never thought I would be where I am today. I never thought that I could overcome my drug addiction. I never thought that I could overcome jumping in and out of cars.
I work hard daily to never have to enter that place again. I have my family. I'm grateful for that.
I'm grateful to have a chance to start over. I'm grateful for my kids, peace, having a community of ladies that are willing to help me achieve my goals. I'm grateful for the peace that I receive, the happiness that I have every day.
So if we could just say one more thing, if we could go back to there we go, to that slide right there. You can see in that video some of our participants and then also their advocates. And that, as Tre'Naisha said, that relationship with their advocate, the advocates are trained through the net. And the idea is, just as one of the participants was saying, that it gave her a chance to have a friend that wasn't trying to shake her down for anything, that didn't need anything from her, that didn't want anything from her, but was just a true friend and advocate. And it's been a tremendous model for our participants to know that they had somebody in their corner that was never going to ask them for anything. And it's been transformative. And you can see that, I think, in the video. And really the social support that the NET provides, as far as those things that Tre'Naisha was talking about, these events where the participants can go with their kids or they can go with each other, and they know they're in a safe place, and they can start to build these new experiences and new memories and connections with people that are healthy and that are positive. And again, that there's not going to be any quid pro quo, which a lot of them have been used to. And so it's just an integral part of our program, and I don't think that we could do what we do without them. And I think that comes through on the video.
Mm-hmm. You'll be surprised how many people I interview to get in the program and they already know who the NET is just because they do the jail advocacy work and going to go meet them right where they are.
Right, and as Tre'Naisha said, a lot of our participants in this program come to us because the NET has a jail advocacy program where they will go and just talk with women who are in custody for prostitution offenses or just have prostitution offenses in their background. And they will go and just visit with them. And maybe it doesn't lead to participation in our program, but often it's that seed that gets planted, and then we'll see them years later. And so when Jordan is with us, at a pre-docket meeting or whatever, oftentimes she knows a person's whole history and has a relationship with that person, or her advocates do, because they've been working with them for years. And it's beautiful.
Another resource that we have on our treatment team is the Women's Center. And the Women's Center is the ones who provide treatment to our trauma counseling to our ladies once they're stable on their medication and they're clean. So normally around the ladies who are probably in phase 5 or 6, they provide insight to us about their behaviors, because as probation, we don't know a lot about trauma, so we're getting trained in that. And so if I come to one of my counselors and be like, hey, this lady's doing so-and-so, and she's like, she's working in her trauma brain. This is why she's behaving that way. And so it's giving me insight about their behaviors as well, and teaching and training us and providing everything that we need so we can supervise them a lot better. And so that's what the Women's Center do for us, and guiding us through everything that we need to know about trauma. We also work with the Salvation Army. So our ladies are going through phases. There's 6 phases in the program. So phase 1, once we place them on probation, we're sending them straight to treatment. Go ahead and fix that substance abuse. And then after they get out of treatment, and it's always residential treatment, we send them to the Salvation Army or to Union Gospel. And this is where they're gonna get their housing. They have the housing programs such as the Simon program or the First Choice program if they have children. And they give them budgeting classes, parenting classes, give them transportation as well. So it's just another resource that we provide to our ladies when they have never had anything, been living on the streets. So I really appreciate the Salvation Army as well as the Union Gospel. The Union Gospel does the same thing that the Salvation Army housing does as well, and provide the individualized plans for each client and get them in their homes. One of the things that both of these, the Salvation Army and Union Gospel does, is once they complete their program, they're giving them housing vouchers. So each of these ladies are gonna own their own home once they get done with this program. No one is going back to living with a friend, a cousin, or a pimp. They're gonna have their own home in their own name and getting their rent paid.
So what is trauma? The American Psychological Association tells us it's an emotional response to a terrible event like an accident, rape, or natural disaster. And I mean, it just makes common sense to us, even if, you know, that everybody reacts differently to trauma. We could all be part of the same event, and just depending on the tools that we have, we're all gonna have a different reaction to that. And so as people that are operating a court like this with participants who have such severe trauma, we need to be aware of that. Everyone's going to react differently. And so we also have to recognize too that the way that we would react is not the way that they're going to react, and we have to allow for that. Now, this isn't like just some, prescription for just permission, where we just let people do whatever they want. But we have to go back and look behind the behaviors that we're seeing. And as Tre'Naisha mentioned, since we've got counselors on our team, they can help us work through that. When we're puzzled by somebody's response, or they seem stuck or whatever, the counselor helps us talk to people and work through their issues. As Tre'Naisha said, that so-and-so is operating out of their trauma brain right now. Try going at it this way. And so it's just so helpful to have those professionals with us and help us be part of our team. This trauma, it could have happened last year, it could have happened 10 years ago, it could have happened when they were children, but people carry that with them. And every experience that each of us has makes us who we are. And so our goal is to help people, be resilient and recover from those things, but they're always there. And so we just need to be aware of that, that those experiences make us who we are. And depending upon our childhood and the tools that we have, our own mental health, we're going to react differently and have different responses to those things. And we just need to be aware of that with our participants. So what does it mean to be trauma-informed? Is basically just to be aware that everybody is going to react differently and that these experiences make them who they are. A lot of these traumatic events lead to certain mental illnesses. They can lead to physical illnesses. I mean, I know you'll agree that we have one participant right now, I won't say her name, but she is crippled with anxiety. And she's a young person in her 20s, but I mean, just even coming to court sometimes is just so hard for her. And if I say anything to her or Tre'Naisha says anything to her, like, hey, we're going to need to see you after court, I mean, she just starts shaking. And she is, has so many health issues. And I really do believe that a lot of the trauma that she's been through is leading to her repeated health issues that are, not necessarily clearly diagnosed. And so like all of that, carrying that, it leads to physical problems as well. So we just need to be aware of those things.
And on probation side and being trauma-informed supervision, we have to approach each client in front of us very differently. We don't treat them the same. I can't treat client 1 like I treat client 2 because I know their past, I know their history, I know their barriers, I know what they need. So that's what it takes to be trauma-informed. I have to understand their triggers. I don't want them in my office and I'm triggering them. When I see someone shutting down, I may ask them, is there something that I said, it seems like you're shutting down because of this. Do you want to stop talking about this? I can't approach these ladies that are dealing with trauma how I would approach someone else. So I have to be aware of everything that these ladies have been going through. We move from why did you do this or what's wrong with you to what happened to you. And that's how we build this trauma-informed supervision. Let's see. So how do we build the trust? We address their basic need. They come in and they need housing, they need food, they need clothing, they need employment. Understanding that because they have these extensive background, like the judge said, it's gonna be hard with employment. So I'm not gonna sit here and refer you to a court-ordered class that you have to take where you're gonna have to pay money, knowing that right now you don't have stable housing, knowing that you don't have employment, knowing that you don't have transportation. I have to address those needs and being realistic in what I give to you. I'm not judging you. These ladies come in and they have this mindset of the criminal justice system because they've been through it before. And so I need you to open up to me to let me know what you've been through, your trauma, your triggers. In order for me to do that, I have to come off not being judgmental. I have to watch what I have to say. I have to use my language is very important and how I speak to each of these ladies.
And I'll say, as a judge, it's hard not to be judgy, right? I rely on the folks on our team to help me, make that balance between, I have to hold you accountable, but I also have to understand where you are coming from. And it's real hard. I do not know what I'm doing. And so I rely on Tre'Naisha and our folks from the Women's Center to help walk that line. Because you can't just, use this as, let them use what has happened to them be an excuse. But you do have to use it as part of understanding the big picture of what's going on. And so, we really try to do that. And keeping in mind, too, that for a lot of these women, every experience they've ever had in the criminal courtroom has been terrible, right? So whenever we have them come to court, which is twice a month, I try to make sure that it's in the same place with the same people, that the bailiffs who are going to be in charge are aware that this is the specialty court. These are the participants that are coming, because that can be very triggering. Just seeing a police officer with a gun and a badge, even things like that. So we try to think about it from every aspect. What would it be like to be, let's say, Jane from our program walking into that courtroom for the very first time? How is that going to be for her? And we really try to make it a place where we're not going to re-traumatize them and just have them triggered by just the courtroom itself. So when I started working with this program, I didn't really know what it meant to be trauma informed, and I'm still not really sure that I do. This is a shameless plug for a book, and I promise I'm not getting any proceeds from this. But if you all are working in this area, I highly recommend that you listen to this book or read it by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey. And again, I'm not getting any proceeds from this, but it's a beautiful book on trauma and resilience and healing. And through this, it's been really helpful to me. Dr. Perry and Oprah talk about this shift in thinking between, like, what happened to you? Like, why can't you comply? Why can't you show up for your UA? Why don't you show up for probation meetings? What is wrong with you? The question that we need to be asking if we're working with this population is, what happened to you? What happened to you that has brought you to where you are now? What are the challenges that you're facing? And how do I help you recover from that and get to a point where you can be regulated and where you can get yourself back to where you can be? And so they have a lot of great stories. Dr. Perry talks all about, like, your trauma brain and the neuroscience behind it, and I'm not smart enough to understand what he's saying with regard to the neuroscience of it. But he has some really great examples, and Oprah contributes as well from stories of her guests and things that have happened to her that really make sense and really resonate with me, and I've recommended that our entire treatment team reads it. I recommend it to y'all, and again, I'm not getting a dime from this, but it really is a good outline of how to be trauma-informed and how to shift your thinking. So what do we want to do? We really want to listen and really hear each other as part of this team, and also as part of the team with our participants. And if you notice, Tre'Naisha and I refer to our participants as either clients or participants, because, they're not probationers in our mind. They're not defendants in our mind. These are people that we are trying to help, that we are trying to walk with on a journey of healing. And so, yes, we're in the context of the criminal justice system, but, I feel like even just that label, helps us remember that these are people with a story. We've got to be consistent and predictable, which has been super hard the last year and a half. But we've tried, and I've been so proud, and I know you are too, Tre'Naisha, of our folks, because, when the pandemic hit, we thought, oh gosh, there goes dependability out the window. But somehow, they dug in and we figured out ways to keep things going. As Judge Carr would say, to keep rocking and rolling, and we did. And so really we just try to focus on what happened to them rather than what's the matter with them.
And like I said earlier, I have to be aware of each of my clients when I have them in my office. So if I'm talking about family and I realize that you just shut down and you have withdrawn, I have to recognize that and let you know that happened and ask you if you want to change the subject. Do you want to talk about something else? A lot of our clients also are very fidgety. So there's things in my office that you could play with, that you could touch, that, like the Rubik's Cube or something that you need to move around. Sometimes they need something in their mouth, so having like peppermints or something that they could suck on to kind of just keep them calm. Just being aware of these things, thanks to the Women's Center, allows me to be able to supervise them and give them what they need. When I have a client who I just don't understand, and are doing something wrong, I have to be aware that they're operating out their trauma brain, and it's nothing personal. But I still have to do my job, but I have to be able to be patient and listen and understand and just give them the time that they need.
So one of the big things that Dr. Perry and Oprah talk about in that book is to come at people from a point where they are regulated, getting people calm and regulated first before you can work on the rest of this. And so as Tre'Naisha said, when you can tell people are shutting down, or you're having to talk with them about something difficult, something that they haven't done that you need to, take corrective action about, it's important to make sure that they're regulated. And how do you do that? You go backwards. As Tre'Naisha said, maybe you back off of that conversation. In the big picture of things, getting them regulated is, getting them to treatment first thing. Before you can work on the other things, you've got to get them stable and address their addiction with them so that they're able to receive and able to work on those other things. And so it could be something as, hey, we're gonna get up and take a walk. We're gonna leave my office for a minute, or just backing off and talking about something else that's easier for them. But getting to people when they're at a place where they're regulated helps them accept and work on whatever it is that you're trying to get with them about. And it's important to connect with them as people. And I think, again, this is one of the things that the net does so beautifully for us, is that you have these connections that you're rebuilding. And Dr. Perry and Oprah talk about this, again, shameless plug, over and over in that book, how, our brain is this, this wonderful thing that, it can change. And these things that have happened to you can be mended. But you have to do that by making, new memories and new connections and new supports. And so that's what we're trying to do. The positive message is that healing is always possible. Now, we have people that, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that every person that comes to RISE winds up graduating and going on to, get their PhD or their LCDC or whatever it is. We do have people that can't stay with us. But healing is always possible. And so, that's what we're hoping for. And a couple weeks ago, actually it's probably a couple months ago now, we had a really amazing docket setting where we had just admitted a new participant to the court. And she had pled in Judge Gallagher's court down the hall. And so I had her brought to our regular RISE meeting. And she had just received probation, and so she hadn't really met anybody except for Tre'Naisha yet. So we brought her into court and had her, introduce herself, and all of our other participants were there. And she was talking and saying, how glad she was to have this chance. She really wanted to turn her life around, X, Y, Z. And as we went through docket, as we normally do, I call on each participant to tell us what they're working on, how things are going, celebrating things, so forth. We get to the very end, and one of our participants, who's one of our rock stars, but is usually pretty reserved, got up and kind of gave her monthly report, and then she said, "Hey, Tammy, it's good to see you. Glad you're here." And so this participant looked over at Marlene and said, "Red, is that you?" And she said, "Yep, glad to see you again." And so come to find out, these ladies had known each other from the streets from years ago. And then two other of our participants too said, "Hey, Tammy, do you remember me? I'm glad to see you as well." Each one of those ladies stood up and said, "We're glad you're here. This can change your life if you do what they say, if you work the program." So it wasn't us saying it, it was people in our program welcoming the new participants, saying, "Hey, this isn't gonna be easy, but you're in the right place. We're glad you're here. We see you, and we're glad you're here." And it was amazing. We couldn't have written it up any better, and we happened to have some folks from the net, from the board of directors at the net there that day, and we were like, yes, this is great. But really, those things happen all the time. The women become advocates for each other. A couple weeks ago, we had somebody that was having issues with her landlord. The landlord was not living up to his obligations as far as having working appliances in her apartment, and so we asked Patricia to stay after docket so that we could talk with her about that. And of course, in my mind, I'm looking at this as a lawyer as that, well, this is a landlord-tenant dispute, and and there's a contract, and he should pay this, and And then I was like, wait a minute. One of the other ladies had stayed with her, and I was like, wait. The other lady starts talking to Patricia and says, you deserve better, Patricia. And I was like, right. Thanks, Gabrielle. One of our other participants, because what I really needed to be saying to Patricia was, you deserve better. You are worth it. You deserve a decent place to live. You deserve working appliances. You deserve an apartment that isn't infested with mice, such that you have to put your groceries in the refrigerator so that the mice don't eat them. You deserve better. You are worth it, and we will work with you to make sure that you get that. And it was just, thank you. It was just astounding, because in her mind, she was so afraid of saying something because she thought, I really like the landlord. He's always been nice to me, so I don't want to make him mad, and I don't want to get kicked out. And, again, in my lawyer brain, I'm like, this is a ridiculous landlord-tenant dispute. This is a contract. But no, what she needed to hear in that moment, and thankfully what one of our other participants told her and cued me into, was I needed to tell her, you're worth it. And this is not right. And we're going to get this for you. And so there's I could go on and on about moments like that we have in this program. And by the way, she's got her stove now, and the mice have been taken care of. But they've formed a community by coming to our program, and they're learning how to advocate for themselves, and that's really what we want. And so, when you watch that, it's a beautiful thing to watch that come to fruition. So, our last page here is results. People always want to know, well, how successful is your program? How many people do you have graduate? And so, Tre'Naisha's got some statistics up there. I would add that last week we had a graduation where we had 9 more people graduate from our program. But I would submit to you this, that success, sure, could be measured in how many people do you have graduate, how many people do you have that don't reoffend and don't come back to the criminal justice system. And those are valid markers. But also what we've had in the last year are women who have been reunited with their kids. They've gotten their minor children back in their home. They've been able to be a parent again. They've been reunited with their adult kids, and they're working on mending those relationships. That's a success to me. We've had women that have cooked their very first holiday dinner that they've ever done for their families. And that, to me, is a success, is seeing those pictures. And you can bet that's something that we talk about at docket. Let me see, how was your Thanksgiving dinner? the very first one you've ever cooked for your whole family, all of you together. Let us see that. Let us celebrate that with you. Isn't it a success if we've got people that have jobs, that have gotten promotions, that have bought their very first car? We have somebody who went and got her driver's license at 25, and she never had that before. Same person one day in docket looked at us and said, "Hey, y'all, I filed my taxes. I've never done that before." You know, maybe that's not a big deal to most people. But for these folks, it is. And I would submit to you that those are successes every bit as much as a statistic of you graduated from our program or you didn't get snagged back into the criminal justice system. Because those lives are being mended and those relationships are healing. And then they can in turn pass that down to their fellow participants in the program, to their kids, to their spouses, and to us, that is success. And so it's kind of a mushy, way. You can't really, I don't think, put a measure on that. But just to know that that is happening, and so that's why we do it.
My goodness, what a great day for truth today. And I want to just thank you so much, Judge Wynn, for your leadership, your investment, your compassion, your authenticity, your humility. Thank you so much. And Ms. McGuire, everything that you're doing, stepping out there for these people is so important. It's so critical to the success, not only of them, but of all of us. Because when any of us do better, we all do better. So thank you so much for your program.